Hey, welcome to the channel. My name's Aram, and if you're new here, I'm a freelance filmmaker and a bit of a nerd. Now, for those of you who saw my last video, you'll know I was thinking about doing a video on your everyday carries, but given what's been happening in the world over the last few weeks, making a video about everything I owned seemed inappropriate. So today, instead, I'm going to talk about 5 mistakes that I've made as a freelancer, specifically a freelance filmmaker, but these apply to anyone as a freelancer or thinking of going freelance. So the first mistake, and the one that I continue to make time and again, is investing in equipment that I'm only ever going to use once, because there's not investing. For something to be an investment, it has to make you money, it has to earn its return. When you buy something and you only use it once, when you could have just rented that thing in, it's no longer an investment, it's more of a liability. I would be really careful to understand what the word investment means and to actually think before any purchase. Is this an investment? Is this an actual asset? Or is it just a liability that's going to depreciate that I'm never going to use, that I could just rent in? Because even if you're thinking to rent it is £50, £70 and you're never going to see that money back versus £300, but you get to keep the item, if you don't actually need or want that item, you're just spending more money, you're losing more money, and you have to store it. The second mistake is letting work and clients dictate my health, and that includes sleep, fitness, and food. I went vegan at the start of the year, and that has been incredibly difficult on film sets. It's hard enough anyway trying to eat healthily when you are a freelancer, because often you're out on the road, you end up eating at McDonald's or Starbucks, essentially all these chains that are high in salt and sugar, but low in actual nutrients. And too often we don't kick up a fuss about it because we think, well, we just want to get the job done. We don't want to cause a problem or leave a bad reputation. But at the end of the day, everyone should be taking better care of themselves. And actually, if you're the one to say, do you know what, I think having McDonald's on day 3, having already had it on day 1 and 2, is not the best idea, then you're doing the right thing. It's not always easy, especially if you do have intolerances or ethical choices like I have, which makes it difficult just to eat in anywhere and find something appropriate. But we all have a right to a healthy life. And just as important as getting the right food is and being the one prepared to say, actually, I don't want to eat there again, sleep is another really crucial thing. It is very easy in any industry where you are expected to drive long distances and work long days to sacrifice sleep, and you take it down and down and down. And there's been days that I've got 4 hours sleep, I've got 3 hours sleep, and there's actually been shoots that I've not slept at all the night before. So I ran my body for 36 hours and basically collapsed at the end of it. That's a really bad way to be. The older I've got and the more I've started to care about my health, the more important I've realized that sleep is, and not just to make it a safer drive, to make it a safer job, to actually be able to concentrate better. But recent studies have shown that sleep is massively important for clearing out the toxins in your brain. There's a certain type of protein that builds up in your brain throughout the day, and this protein has been linked to an underlying cause of Alzheimer's potentially. Now, when you get more than 6 hours sleep, then your body can process that, take it away, get rid of it. Whereas if you get less than 6 hours, your brain and your body struggles to get rid of it to the levels that it needs to. Now, I don't expect you to just take my word for it. So I'm going to leave a link to a podcast below that features Dr. Matthew Walker, who has studied this extensively. And it is a really eye-opening conversation that makes you understand the importance of sleep. And what this means as a freelancer is actually standing up for yourself if clients or different conflicting schedules are pushing you to sacrifice how much sleep you get. That's not to say that, you can't say yes to an early start. Sometimes you're going to have to. But you need to make sure that you're not running through a late night, doing a drive home, and then an early start. You absolutely, physically need that sleep for your body to recover. It's crucial. And whilst we do want to sometimes push ourselves as much as we can, there's not always a need for it. And particularly on paid work from big brands, they have the money there to make sure that everyone gets enough sleep, that you're getting put up in a hotel rather than doing 3-hour drives there and back. Now, don't be a diva about it, but just know where your limits are and make sure that everyone else knows where those limits are too. And the third part to that is fitness in general, which falls more on you. Over the years, I've suffered from a terrible shoulder problem, but I haven't made it any better through the months when I've just not worked out. I've been really bad in the past at trying to form a rigid routine for fitness, and then jobs come in, that routine goes out the window, I get demotivated, and I don't do it. Similarly, sometimes I've been too flexible and I've not worked out because I've given myself too much freedom about if and when I do it. So now I have a routine just in terms of I need to do something on this area every day, or at least this number of workouts a week. So in terms of when I'm actually doing them, there's a bit more flexibility. I'm not stuck in a pattern of feeling like I need to do it now and missing it because of work and getting demotivated. It's kind of like a semi-rigid, semi-fluid, adaptable schedule. Just make sure that you are putting that time in. The third mistake is accepting poor treatment from clients. We all too often fear as freelancers about losing work. What happens if we upset a client? But the reason we go freelance is to get away from jobs and situations with people who don't respect us. So why are we now going to allow it now that we are freelance? Not so long ago, I did a project and the whole process was horrible, to be honest. I really suffered from some quite poor treatment from the clients. And it wasn't just me. After the shoot, I found out they hadn't been very respectful to some of my crew as well. And it's not okay. So after the project, we had a wash-up meeting, at which point I told them I would not be working with them again, and I told them why. I wish I'd stood up for myself and everyone earlier on in the production, not just afterwards. But you just don't really expect it to happen. So when it does, you're left a little bit kind of unsure about what you should do because you're almost in shock that this is actually a real scenario. Most of us filmmakers just want to have a, pleasant experience. We just want to make a good film and not have people talk to us like we're not worth anything. It's not a big ask. And it's really important for any freelancer out there that you remember that just because they're paying you. Something that my mum always said, which is really stuck with me, is they're not the boss, they're the customer. You are allowed to choose not to work with them. You can say, I don't want to provide a service to you because I don't agree with the way that you are treating me as a person or our company as a business. And that carries across financially. You want to make sure that you are working with people who are going to pay you on time. Luckily, I know my rights in terms of late fees and making sure that I do get that return. But it's not the point. We want to make those choices about who we work with based on what we value in terms of other people and make sure that we are treated with that same value back. Now, leading on from that is a fourth mistake that I've made, and I have absolutely no doubt that you either have or will make at some point, and that is spending money before that money's really come in. Because sometimes, even when you can have a job lined up, or you can do a job and know that money's coming in, that money can take a long time to come through. And if you've gone out and spent $3,000 on a camera, but that job isn't actually going to pay you for another 2 months because they're not very efficient clients with their finance system, that's going to fall back on you. At the start of this year, I had 3 potential jobs lined up. The dates were penciled in and the clients were very keen to work together, but those dates kind of came and went and the clients weren't getting back to me. And it turned out that actually either the job had been scrapped or they decided to go with someone else, but hadn't told me, which in itself is a bit of a disrespectful thing. But that to the side, it is such a good thing that I didn't assume that money was assured and I didn't go out and make any large purchases. Sometimes you will have to pay out for expenses before you invoice them. That's just the nature of freelance work sometimes. But when you want to make a big investment or buy that shiny gadget, don't do it before you have that money in your account as much as possible. And the fifth mistake is saying yes to projects that you don't necessarily really want to do and saying no to your family and friends as a result. We all have to make sacrifices to get somewhere we want to get to, particularly if you want to write and direct your own original content, then you will have to sacrifice time spent with friends and family. That's a given, and I advocate for that. I think sometimes you have to prioritize yourself to get to where you want to get to. That said, many times I've said yes to a job or I've kept a space free for work rather than prioritizing my friends and family. When I turned 30, I had a bit of a moment of realization. I'd always said, when I get to that point or that point, I will spend more time with the ones around me and focus less on the work. I can keep saying that, but my friends and family, they're not always going to be around or be able to do the things together that we can do now. Whereas that work will come and go, it will ebb and flow, just like finances do. I know I'm not the only freelancer who does this because I chat to many other freelancers about this and that internal feeling of conflict we have. And I've also been on the flip side of that, being the friend who's pushed down the pecking order because of work. And it takes its toll on any relationship. And those relationships are really important. The last thing you want to do as a freelancer is lose those relationships, because not only do a lot of your jobs and work opportunities come from those relationships, but it can also be a bit of a lonely path if you aren't making the effort to go and see people. And to avoid that isolation, you need to protect those relationships around you. And a little bonus tip is to just enjoy yourself when your day's off. It's really hard at the start. You are spending those days just trying to find work, or you're fretting about the money. And I understand, I've been there. But the reason we go freelance is to have those days off, to enjoy ourselves, to go spend our times in the gym or with our friends or working on that passion project. It does take a while, and one of the ways that makes us a bit easier is to go spend those days with other freelancers who also feel that way, and you'll kind of help each other through it, or to go do something that feels positive and helpful anyway, like going to the gym or going for a swim. If you don't do it, you'll just kick yourself when the work comes in and you get busy and you think, why didn't I relax on those 4 or 5 days I've just had, instead of worrying about when the next job is going to come. I didn't want to make this video to scare anyone off from going freelance. It's an amazing way of living and has a lot of opportunity and potential, both for your career and for yourself personally anyway. But I also think that there are mistakes that, like any job or any part of life, we are likely to make. And if you can avoid those mistakes, or if you can at least be aware that they're there, and then you can address them when they creep in, you'll find yourself living a happier life and you'll enjoy freelancing even more. For me, right now, I am prioritizing my health a lot more than I was a year ago. And that has been so important for me. That's really helped me. And same with my family and friends. I'm prioritizing those relationships a lot more than I was a year ago as well. And I feel a lot better for it. And the work's still coming in just as much. There's been no change there, except for me personally. I felt the change in a really nice way. Now, if you are thinking of going freelance, then I'm more than happy to give some more advice. Just leave a comment below and we can, chat about that. And if you already are freelance and you've made some of these mistakes, then don't worry, I feel you, I've been there. No one's perfect, we're all human, and that's totally cool. If you enjoyed this, I would love a like and subscribe, would be great. If you didn't like this content, then, don't. So otherwise, hope you have a good week, and I will see you soon. Bye.